Hello everybody, Dr. Stuart Alan Swerdlow.
And Janet Diane Moya Swerdlow.
And this is the Expansions News Podcast for the second week of January 2020.
And we forgot the star of the show.
Oh, go on. Jasmine is training to replace Janet.
Yeah, everybody wondered where the poopies were.
Yeah, well, poopies should be in the toilet.
Yeah.
But the dogs are here. Well, one of them is because the other one doesn't like to come here.
Up in this room.
So she's the one that's here.
So we have Yasmini, so you can see that the Vietnamese restaurant returned her.
Yeah, they said that she was too difficult. And she actually tried to cook them. So
she's very smart.
Yes. So actually, she had a Vietnamese special. I don't care if it's not politically correct. It's true. And speaking of things that are not politically correct, I have a lot of such stories for you today.
For me?
For anyone who wants to hear them. And they're quite serious, although some of them are quite humorous. But the first one is not humorous at all. No, because it involves the destruction of the Ukrainian airline that killed 176 people, including the crew, shortly after it took off from Tehran's airport this past week, killing all on board. And just a few minutes after takeoff, before reaching even 8,000 feet, it caught fire and crashed. Now, of course, the Iranians said that it was already on fire and that it crashed into the ground and killing everybody, and that it actually was trying to turn back around. Where did we hear that story before? Well, we heard that story before when a Malaysian airline flying over Ukraine, there's Ukraine again, was hit by a missile, and they said it tried to turn around and then it crashed. But on board were several nationalities. There were, according to the Ukrainian Foreign Ministry, 82 Iranians, 63 Canadians, 11 Ukrainians, 9 of which were crew members, 10 Swedes, 4 Afghanis, 3 Germans, and 3 British. And here's the other clue. The plane had been delayed from taking off from Imam Khomeini International Airport for almost an hour, and it took off to the west, but never made it above 8,000 feet. Now, when have we seen planes delay takeoff and then being destroyed? TWA 800, back when we lived in New York. There was the Egyptian airline that was shot down over the Atlantic. It was delayed in Los Angeles airport, and the Malaysian airlines were delayed. All these planes were delayed. Why? Not because of technical difficulties, not because of air traffic, because they're delayed so that they could be in a certain position for being shot down. It was planned in advance.
I'd like to know who was on that plane.
Yes, I'd like to know who was on that. I have my theories, which I'll be discussing with you, because on the passenger list were usually Iranian students who are coming back to Ukraine after winter holidays. And just after it happened, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said he could not rule out a missile strike, and Ukraine's investigators wanted to research the crash site for debris of Russian-made missiles used by Iran. But guess what? Iran bulldozed the entire debris field, leaving absolutely no possibility for an investigation to take place. So when you cover up something immediately, what does that mean? It means that you did it.
Well, they have admitted it.
They have admitted it, but they also said it was an accident and that they're going to punish the military person who pressed the button. But here's my thing. Why would they mistake a commercial airliner with a transponder that says this is a commercial airliner?
Well, plus it's just taking off.
And it just took off from their own airport in Iran. How could they mistake this for an American bomber?
Right, that's what I'm saying.
That had no radar coming across Iran to Tehran's almost in the middle of the country. They would have seen it coming. Right. This is a BS story.
It makes absolutely
a
BS
story. And not a theory, but you will find out probably in the next few weeks or months that it's not an accident whatsoever, and they were stopping someone on board who had information about Ukraine, Iran, the Bidens, and Obama. And so I would say this was an attack orchestrated by the deep state, most
Awesome.
likely by Biden and Hillary and crew. So that's my theory, and I'm sure that even though they're calling it an accident, there's no such thing as an accident, and all the evidence, even from my perspective, it was not an accident. Now, in addition to all of this, there are experts who have warned that Iran is able to attack the United States and American interest at any time, because Iran has sleeper cells in the United States. I reported on this for the last 2-3 years. In addition, they have a proxy arm in Lebanon. It means the armies or people that represent them in Lebanon, Hezbollah, which, as you know, our reporter in Beirut has told us so. And they have an active terror presence in Latin American countries, which is very disturbing. Back in 2003, former CIA Director George Tenet declared that there were 12 Hezbollah cells operating in the US. And since this was 15 years ago, it's very likely, or actually 17 years ago, it is likely that many more have been established since then. And according to Ilan Berman, Vice President of the American Foreign Policy Council, Hezbollah is present in at least 15 metropolitan centers stretching from New York to Los Angeles, and these include New York City, Newark, New Jersey, Boston, Chicago, San Francisco, Louisville, Houston, Miami, Los Angeles, Portland, Oregon, Atlanta, and Tampa. What the heck are they doing there? And who let them in? Oh, I know, Obama. There is, and according to Michael Pregent, who is a former intelligence officer who works against the Iranian influence in the region, he says they are as good or better at explosive devices than ISIS. They are better at assassinations and developing assassination cells. And they are better at targeting, better at looking at things, and they can outsource attacks to Hezbollah. Others testifying before Congress agreed with this assessment, and according to Emanuele Ottolenghi, a senior fellow at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies, says this is absolutely true. We do face a threat. Their networks are present in the United States. Hezbollah is deeply entrenched in Latin America, and the drug smuggling industry finances them with their drug money that they get. And it says that they're easily able to penetrate Latin American countries and get to the U.S. border as posing as an illegal immigrant and asylum seeker, because many of them look Hispanic. They have the same coloring and hair and so on. It says that they have the assistance and aid of the Latin American drug smuggling rings, who are, by the way, controlled by the deep state, and they help them with human trafficking as well as explosives and other materials that they need. Infiltrating the USA and Europe is especially easy over the past few years because millions of refugees who are from Syria, Iraq, and other places in the Middle East and North Africa sneak in very easily. Even though they're terrorists, they pose as immigrants. And it refers to creeps like Representative Ilhan Omar, who denounced the Iranian terrorist attack against Qasem Soleimani as the killing of a foreign official. And the press called him a farm boy or an icon, and the stupid Hollywood celebrities send their condolences to the Iranian people who are actually celebrating his death. And in fact, today, just before we went on,
I put this here.
they're actually saying death to the Iranian regime. Their own people are doing this, trying to overthrow them. He was a monster, a stone cold killer of innocence. I encourage all of you viewers to read the link or the links on this podcast connected to this. And I would like to read to you some information about him. And I should have had this ready, and I did have it ready, but then my phone did weird things, about what he was involved with. And so, just in the last year alone, he was involved, Soleimani, in the attack on the tankers in the Gulf in May of 2019. In June, he was involved in the shooting down of the U.S. drone. In July, he was involved in the seizing of a British oil tanker. In September, he was involved in the attack on the Saudi oil fields. In December, he was involved in the attacks on U.S. military bases in Iraq and the storming of the U.S. Embassy in Baghdad. And he has also been involved in the killing of thousands of Syrians, Iranians, Kurdish people, and so on, and Iraqis. He was a violent murderer who was planning to destroy other people in the Middle East and elsewhere. So good riddance to him, and I'm sure that even Satan wants nothing to do with him.
So before you get on to your next story, I wanted to just comment on that because I actually printed out that story since it just happened just before we came on the air. But it did say that the Iranian protesters in Tehran were turning against the regime and demanding the Ayatollah resign after the country's military admits it shot down passenger plane full of its own citizens. So they're screaming in the streets, death to liars. Well, I have to say, for the fact that they're out there protesting against the Ayatollah is a huge thing, because that alone for the people protesting could be a death sentence. So something really is going on out there, and apparently these protests broke out at 4 universities in Tehran today after the military finally admitted their blunder. So the crowds are calling for a full investigation into the disaster, and interestingly enough, the country's still on high alert after targeting U.S. forces with ballistic missiles and this bloodless strike, they're calling it.
I predicted, and I have stated over the last several months, that the U.S. does not have to attack Iran, because the Iranian people will destroy their own government and overthrow them.
And here they are. So
quickly.
It's going to be interesting to see what happens with these protests from here, if they're going to go ahead and
remember,
take down
Soleimani last year had 1,500 Iranian protesters shot to death in his own country.
Right.
Okay? That's what he was.
Yeah, and I also wanted to say this was another interesting piece of news, because it said the FAA may well have saved American lives by banning U.S. carriers from flying over Iran and Iraq 3 hours before the Ukrainian jet was shot down.
See, somebody knew something.
Right, because the thing is like you said, they took off from Tehran. They were in the middle of the country anyway. It was a Ukrainian jet. It was barely, in the air, and it was shot down by the military.
And here's another thing. People, airlines in other countries should not be sending their aircraft to Iran or to Syria or any countries that support these regimes. They should ban all travel to these countries, and then we will see a difference.
Yeah, and Ukraine, again, it's in the middle of everything. This is still kind of a mystery.
Yeah, something's going on with Ukraine. But remember, in Russian language, Ukrainian means borderland. So it's on the border of everything. It's in between everything. There's a reason why all of that happens. Now, to something which I personally find humorous, but some people are actually serious about it. And so I refer to an article by Piers Morgan, the British journalist, who I'm not the biggest fan of his, but I absolutely agree with most of what he said in this article. And he feels that the Queen must fire what he calls the royal hustlers, and calls them deluded Meghan and Harry, who should be stripped of their titles before this pair of grasping, selfish, scheming, Kardashian wannabes bring down the monarchy. You think he's a little angry with them a little bit? But you'll find out why in a moment. And he said, I've seen some disgraceful royal antics in my time, but for pure arrogance, entitlement, greed, and willful disrespect, nothing has ever quite matched the behavior of the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. I put inverted commas around those titles because I sincerely hope they won't exist much longer. Then he goes on to say, these two deluded clowns announced yesterday they were quitting their life as senior royals. Senior royals, she just got in there. How could she be, she got an advance already in less than a year? And then it says, in a series of staggeringly pompous statements on their gleaming new Hollywood-style website, they lay down the law to the Queen and to the rest of us about exactly how things are supposedly going to work from this moment on. I kind of tried that with you once, and I was punished for that.
Severely.
Very, I will never do that again.
Good.
I might actually join the Duchess and maybe they'll let me
Maybe.
do something.
Maybe they'll give you a title.
But they're probably jealous. So,
Probably.
yeah.
You can't be they will never be as beautiful as you.
But here's the funny part. To summarize, they want to stop being senior royals with all the tedious duty that entails. What the heck? What tedious duties do they? What do they do? Hello, I'm a royal. Hello. Oh, I'm so tired now. I must rest.
No, they get to wear.
I need to take 6 weeks off because they've been waiting so much.
Yeah, and they get to wear really nice clothes
Oh,
and
please.
drive
She
around
had-
in fancy cars and
It
airplanes.
said that since they
and
got
yachts.
married,
Yeah.
she has worn over $1 million worth of clothes.
Yeah, that's probably not even including her
Just
wedding
like
dress.
since whenever they got
Yeah,
married.
and not even including her wedding dress.
And then it says, in other words, they want to be super woke celebrities with all the outrageous do as we say, not as we do, hectoring hypocrisy they've already brought to that status, who get to keep all the trappings of royal life without any of the hard, boring bits, and the right to cash in on their status however they choose. In their lengthy list of pronouncements, Harry and Meghan say they will now be spending much of their time in North America, where they'll just be lounging on their lazy backsides for 6 weeks, much needed holiday. A holiday from what exactly?
I always want to know that with them.
At a multi-millionaire's waterside mansion in Canada. Oh, and they're going to seek to be financially independent. I guess the 45 million pounds they
Pounds.
have, which is what, like $60 million or
That's a
more,
lot.
that's not enough. Yeah.
They said that they could be wealthier as not being royals because of all the things that they
I
started
mean,
before
seriously,
they made this
I mean,
announcement.
they both need a smack in the head, and I'm willing to do it.
Yeah, I bet.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
And
then
it
they won't
says-
give you a title.
I'll give them a title. They have also informed us they intend to continue living for free.
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to
I
do
want to
that.
work for them. I want to work for them. When they grace the UK with their esteemed presence at Frogmore Cottage, it's not a cottage, their palatial home in Windsor that was gifted to them by the Queen and which has been refurbished to their specification at a cost to taxpayers of millions of pounds. Why do the British want royalty? For what? What year is this now?
Doesn't make sense.
For goodness sake. Oh, and they expect to continue having royal protection too, wherever they choose to live and travel, further vast expense to the taxpayer. They also hilariously laid down their new rulebook for the media, saying they're getting rid of the traditional royal rota system and will instead be inviting special favored journalists to attend their events and only write nice positive things about them.
That sounds like a plan.
That's what I want that plan too for me. I want only nice thing. And he says even Vladimir Putin wouldn't pull a stunt to control the press like that. That's the truth. And here's the next thing. Listen to this. He says, how the hell has it come to this less than 2 years after a wedding that was greeted with global excitement and praise? 2 words. Meghan Markle. I've made no secret of my dislike for and distrust of Meghan. We were friends for a while, or thought we were. She certainly told the world we were in publicly posted tweets now deleted, before most people in Britain had ever even heard of her, and while she was asking me in my local pub for media advice. But from the moment she met Prince Harry, I was discarded faster than a piece of chewing gum stuck to the bottom of a Louboutin heels. I really like his descriptions. And this is the way. To put it bluntly, she's an unsavory... I can't even go on. It's hilarious. She's an unsavory, manipulative, social climbing piece of work. She's a piece of something else. Who has inveigled her way into Prince Harry's heart and used his blind love as a platform to now destroy everything he once held so dear. She caused a tremendous rift between Harry and William. She's ruined Harry's reputation with the public as a hugely popular, fun, carefree soul, turning him into a miserable-looking, virtue-signaling laughingstock. And now she's ripped him away from his beloved grandmother, the Queen. None of this has surprised me. Meghan's been doing this kind of stuff her adult life. She's disowned 99% of her own family. She's ditched and ghosted numerous old friends. She got rid of her ex-husband when she tasted TV stardom. And the former Deal or No Deal suitcase girl has done all this with barely a glance back to her past. But here's the kicker of the whole thing. Because they're going to live on this little island off the coast of British Columbia near Victoria. So that means most likely they will all die in a megaquake and tsunami not too far in the future.
Yeah, but the
So
thing-
bye Meghan and Harry, bye.
But the thing is, I question, that is this still just part of the show?
Listen to me. This is a very bad show.
I know, but the thing is if they do all this, and then Meghan and Harry wind up in Canada with Archie, who's a citizen in the UK and the US.
Yeah, but not Canada.
But he is in the US, and then who knows what's going to happen with Canada. So eventually they'll all make up, and then we'll have the US, Canada, and
Well,
the UK all come together. So I can't say that this isn't some kind of a show that
Well,
everybody's agreeing to.
I'll tell you what's a show. First of all, Canada lets every terrorist in the universe in. And so, of course, they're going to let them in. And did you see how Justin Trudeau is looking lately?
I didn't, but
He's grown a beard,
yeah.
and I cannot tell the difference between him and Fidel Castro.
Well, maybe that's the point.
I'm thinking maybe he's coming out.
No, maybe. I don't know.
It's like, yes, I am Fidel's
But like
son.
I said, there's all kinds of strange things going on in Canada anyway, and I think it's odd that they go there because she's not a Canadian citizen, she's a US citizen. So like I said, all this stuff is still roiling on out there, and how it's going to play out, it might be a few years.
I'm going to predict it's going to end very badly for them.
Well, and I've always said, is she another sacrifice like Diana? And
Well-
the thing is that Harry even said, he was so worried because the press was chasing her like the mother, and she wore Princess Diana's ring, and Mag told you, Princess Di. So I don't know what they're going to do, and we've talked about this before, the child does not look like either of them.
Well,
So-
the child is not from her. That's guaranteed.
So, point being is, there's a lot of strangeness still going on that could very well be going on behind the scenes, and this is the public show. So keep your eyes open, because it may be a few years before the bottom line is revealed, but eventually it will be revealed.
I'm telling you, they will be sacrificed because look where they're living on top of
Yes.
a deadly fault line,
Yes.
tsunami-prone area and volcanic area. That's really stupid.
So there's a lot of stuff going on here that you're
Especially
not
they're
gonna
right
know
on the
about.
water, a house right like 3 meters off the water. Like you have to be a moron to live there.
No, we'll see.
Anyway, and she is a moron, but that's another story.
That's not even her real name, as we know.
No, it's not Meghan. It's not her name, and she's not a woman. So there's a lot of things phony about her, isn't it?
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm not amused. But I was amused by Ricky Gervais delivering a glorious kick in the globes to the Hollywood's woke virtue signaling hypocrites and exposed them as a bunch of shameless, two-faced charlatans. Meat was even banned from their dinner tables to illustrate just how much these kind-hearted celebrities care about the environment after they had flown to Los Angeles in their private jets and been driven to Beverly Hilton Hotel in stretch limousines. Brilliant. Who cares about such massive, gas-guzzling carbon footprints when they're making the ultimate sacrifice of swapping their steaks for vibrant, chilled golden beet soup, king oyster mushroom scallops risotto, but that's not vegetarian, is it? And vegan opera dome dessert. What do you think that is?
Who knows?
It's probably a round thing that's made out of gelatin or something.
No, gelatin comes from animals.
It does.
Bones and hooves.
But these selfless do-gooders left 3 hours later feeling abused, insulted, broken, and shell-shocked thanks to the host who couldn't give a damn about their hurt feelings. I love it. And he said, it's a room full of the biggest virtue signalers and hypocrites in the world, so I've got to go after that. And he called them perverts and sneering. And he suggested billionaire pedophile and star befriender Jeffrey Epstein didn't kill himself. And as people booed, he scoffed, "Shut up! I know he's your friend, but I don't care. You had to make your own way here in your own plane, didn't you?" And then he referred to that movie called The Morning Show, which was about a superb drama about the importance of dignity and doing the right thing, but it was made by a company that runs sweatshops in China. He really let him have it. And this is what he said, You all say you're woke. I don't even know what that means.
It's a new thing. I think it sounds really uneducated.
It's supposed to be like they're aware of things.
I know,
but they're not. They're
I
stupid
think
and completely ignorant.
And I think that's a very stupid term.
But he says, but the companies you work for, unbelievable. Apple, Amazon, Disney. If ISIS started a streaming service, you'd call your agent, wouldn't you? So, if you do not win an award tonight, don't use it as a platform to make a political speech. You're in no position to lecture the public about anything. That's what I've been saying. You know nothing about the real world, and this is my best part. Most of you spent less time in school than Greta Thunberg, yes. So if you win, come up, accept your award, thank your agent, thank God, and F off. I love him. I don't really like British people, but he and Piers Morgan, I think could come to our house for dinner. Okay? So brilliant, Piers Morgan and Gervais. I'm sure the brainless audience didn't even understand it because it wasn't in the script that they could read. So, unfortunately. Now, global warming. Let's go to New Zealand.
Okay.
Shall we? Well, you're looking at me like I have dirt on me or something. What's the matter with you? Are you friends with Meghan and you're mad at me? No? Okay. New Zealand. Snow fell in northern Southland overnight as a January cold snap continued in the province. But you know what the problem is?
What?
It's summer in New Zealand. And it's snowing. So on the coast, Met Service issued a strong wind warning for southwest gales up to 120 kilometers per hour for coastal Southland, Clutha, and Stewart Island. I have a whole island named after me in New Zealand.
We should go visit.
I should own it.
Maybe you do.
Yeah, but they said that the winds could bring down trees and power lines.
Well,
That sounds like a place I'd live.
Well, it's clearing it out.
Yeah. Snow fell to 1,500 meters. It was cold, but they said we do get snow sometimes in the summer. Now, let's go a little bit south of New Zealand. What's south of New Zealand?
Antarctica.
You're very good. You had studied your geography. Well, guess what? Volcanoes melting the West Antarctic glaciers are not from global warming.
Surprise.
It's from volcanoes, as I said how many years ago? 3 new research studies confirm that geothermal heat flow, not man-made global warming, is the dominant cause of the ice sheet melting. And it goes on to say that there's a plume of geothermal heat coming up, melting the ice column and bulging the bedrock, and that the deep earth fault that fuels this plume covers more than 100 subglacial volcanoes that they can't really see, but they're under the ice. It has nothing to do with global warming. So, plus, unfortunately, there are 2 more big earthquakes just this morning in Puerto Rico as Atlantis rises up. And there are more quakes, unfortunately, along the New Madrid fault line, not too far from here, and at Yellowstone.
All right. So, of course, we reported last week about the fires in Australia. Do you remember? And I think it was that podcast, or maybe one before, where I talked about the twin cyclones in the North Atlantic, which we talked about. There are not cyclones.
There are no cyclones in the North Atlantic, there are
Right.
hurricanes.
Well, what was interesting to me, and this is like about a week-old story by the time you see this, but they also reported on twin cyclones off Australia.
Well, that depends where, because cyclones are in the Indian Ocean.
Right.
Typhoons are in the Pacific Ocean, and hurricanes are in the Atlantic Ocean.
Yes.
They're really the same thing, but they have different names depending
Right.
on the ocean.
Well, this is the northern part of Australia.
West
they
or
say.
east?
It doesn't say for
If it's near Perth, then it's a
No.
cyclone.
Port Hedland near Shea Gap. I don't know where that
I
is.
don't know what that is.
But the interesting thing is that's all the twin stuff that keeps going on, and that doesn't stop. So the twin cyclones. So we heard about twin cyclones in the North Atlantic, which was false. Now we talked about twin cyclones for Australia. They called it Blake and Claudia. So I just wanted to
Blake and Claudia, I know them.
Yes, I just want to bring that to your attention. And then this was interesting. The New World Religion, I believe, is taking place with Kanye West, Kanye or Ye or.
Isn't he Christ? Christ West or Kanye
Well,
Christ or
the
something?
interesting thing, yes, he was talking about, but we've talked about the twin messiahs. If you haven't read these books, you really need to read. See, excuse me.
I should read them too.
Jasmine wants to read them. So, and then the third one, which is in layout and going to the printer very soon, but we've been talking about the twin messiahs, and so I believe the twin messiahs, which we talked about, were about mixing politics and religion. So
Yes.
Kanye, as you know, has done a lot of things with Donald Trump, and he's talked now about running for president, and now he's done all this stuff he's been talking about. Now he's got the Sunday service. He's going to take that now. He claims all over the world. He's been doing this actually for a year, believe it or not. And he's no longer doing ordinary tours. He's only doing these Sunday service tours. So if you want to see him, which he has a huge following, you have to go to a Sunday service tour. So to me, that's the start of this new world religion, twin messiahs mixing politics and religion. So very interesting. And his wife, Kim Kardashian, said that these Sunday services are super healing for him. He just lives his life with Christ. It's had a positive impact on our family. And it's a healing experience for my husband. It's just music. There's no sermon, no preaching. It's just a very spiritual Christian experience. So,
You know what he needs?
What?
Stewie.
yeah, anyway, I think that's very interesting. And then
Yes.
on the heels of that, Mark Zuckerberg has a 10-year plan. Now, normally, apparently, at the beginning of every year, which I didn't know this, he has an annual self-improvement challenge.
Oh, he should be doing that.
But this year, he has a grand vision for the next decade, which includes curing all diseases and new forms of government.
I want the new forms
So,
of government, yes.
Lots of things are going on out there, and people are putting things into place on high levels that can make it happen. So Kanye West, now we're hearing about Mark Zuckerberg.
Yeah, Zuckerberg's real brilliant.
Well, and he says, rather than having year-to-year challenges, I've tried to think about what I hope the world and my life will look like in 2030, so I'm sure I'm focusing on those things. And then, moving right along, the new word of the decade is they.
Not that again.
Yeah. Apparently, linguists at the American Dialect Society have named they as word of the decade. He said the chair said when a basic part of speech like the pronoun becomes a vital indicator of social trends, linguists pay attention. The selection of pronouns as word of the year speaks to how the personal expression of gender identity has become an increasing part of our shared discourse. So apparently this vote was held in New Orleans, in Louisiana, in a tradition dating back to 1991. So that's the word of the decade. Okay, and if you remember last podcast, I talked about Veganuary, where 303,000 people signed up pledging to follow a meat-free diet in January. Well, now we have a doctor who has dreamed up Organuary, and she wants people to eat offal.
Ooh,
Offal.
what is that?
You don't know what offal is?
Well, usually it's my ex-wife's cooking, but
No. Offal are the organs of the body that are not attached to a carcass, such as kidneys, liver, tongue, brain, tripe.
aren't they attached?
Offal, not to the carcass, not to the hide. So this doctor says that eating organ meat is a weapon to fight obesity and diabetes. It's very cheap and very nutritious.
Well,
so
you've always said that.
yes. So instead of Veganuary, she wants Organuary.
I want Vodkanuary.
Yeah. Well, anyway, she says that organ meat is very cheap, very nutritious, and eating just a little packs a lot of punch nutritionally. And top chef and author Giancarlo Caldesi enjoys eating offal and is backing the
Can you show
initiative.
me where that word is? Oh, awful, awful. You said awful.
I did.
It's awful.
That's what I said. He said that he's lost weight, reversed his type 2 diabetes by changing his diet. And
Are
he
these,
said,
by the way, is it human organs, perhaps?
no, these come from animals. He said that our bodies intended us to be omnivores. So take that, vegans
Oh, that's
out
so
there.
true.
Now this story, somebody sent this to me. And when I saw this next story, I thought, okay, it's just got to be like a passing trend. So I put it in the search engine just out of curiosity. And it turns out this is actually something that people have been doing for a number of years, and the doctors are warning you to stop putting toothpaste on your genitals.
Who does that?
So, I don't know
Why
if
would
that's where
anyone?
all our toothpaste is going. But apparently, it says that even though this product is very much designed for teeth, that men and women are using it on their private
Oh, come on.
parts.
That's not true.
Yes,
Who does that?
Apparently a lot
But
of people.
why would you do
I
that?
don't really want to say
No,
in
but
public.
I really want to know.
Well, for men, it's like using it like Viagra, they said.
You're kidding.
No? And for women, it's supposed to like take the place of like plastic surgery and stuff.
How?
And some people say it even prevents, if you use it as a lubricant, it prevents pregnancy. So the doctors are saying, don't do this. It's for
Oh, yeah,
your
really?
teeth. It's for your teeth.
And don't put gasoline there either.
Right. It says it can cause inflammation, irritation, even infertility. So
It's called toothpaste.
yes. And so this is under the headline of "Please, for the love of Christ, stop putting toothpaste
I never heard this ever.
on your private parts."
This is the first time I ever heard this.
Me too. But as I said, so when this person sent this, I thought, really?
Oh my
So I've got to look this up, and I did. And like they've been
I
warning.
heard of whipped cream.
You have? Is that what happened to our whipped cream?
Yes.
And for these reasons,
Well, I have many reasons actually.
these are the reasons
It
I'm
feels so
telling you.
smooth and comfortable.
Really?
Yeah, it's like wearing comfortable shoes.
Well, I wouldn't let people know that if I were you. I think that's
Well, I already
disgusting.
did.
Well, shame on you. So anyway,
loss.
because toothpaste is so cheap and affordable and easily attainable, people are using it.
No, but seriously, that is really, I never heard of that in my life.
Now you have. And it says, according to this story, the peppermint oils and other chemicals in toothpaste, including bleaching agents, can be extremely irritating
That would hurt.
to sensitive skin.
What if they use organic toothpaste?
By putting it on your genitals, you actually risk a mild burn as well as blisters and scarring, and toothpaste should in no way be used as a lubricant. And
I have another question.
what?
Do they brush it after that?
I don't know, but the point is, I'm doing this as a public service announcement. People, do not
Yeah.
put
Public service,
toothpaste.
don't use toothpaste on your private parts.
That's the message.
Very important.
Very
To
important.
the morons out there.
Well, like I'm telling you, this announcement apparently has been going on through the internet for several years, so it's not a new thing.
And don't put sunglasses on your butt, because it's not going to help.
Sunglasses?
On your butt.
Why would you do that? You
Well,
know a lot
same
of
reason
things
you
that
put
I don't know
toothpaste on
about.
your front part. I mean, seriously, I'm making a joke.
Oh,
Honestly, where have
Okay.
you been? Maybe you're eating too much offal.
no, that's good for you. Makes your brain strong. Anyway, so moving right along. Don't do that, people. So I had to make that public service announcement. So you
Incredible.
don't do that.
It's like saying, don't swallow knives.
Well, some people do that too. Anyway, moving right along into outer space. There are now 13, lovely number, 13 new astronauts joining NASA under the Artemis program, and they've recently graduated, 11 American, 2 Canadian,
Oh, A?
and apparently they're candidates for the first human exploration of Mars, at least the public one, set for the mid-2030s.
Wait a minute, could the Canadian ones be Meghan and Harry?
Maybe, except they have a picture of them. So it says that Artemis is much more complex than the Apollo missions because it's a mix of public and private partnership, not private parts, just private partnership, no toothpaste allowed. It has multiple layers and uses more robotics than the earlier flights. For example, when the astronauts arrive on the moon, all the equipment and tools they need to carry out experiments will have already been delivered because it's already there.
Yeah, because they've been there for 50 years, that's
At
right.
least. The process and deliveries will be completely automated, and some will be provided by private companies working on behalf of NASA. And future missions will launch from Earth, stopping at the orbiting Gateway space station, then leave on a docked lunar lander for the surface of the moon. So,
Too late. Everyone's there.
about 13 candidates. Then we have Dr. Helen Sharman, who actually was the first person, not the first woman, but the first person from Britain.
Oh, I read about her.
Yeah, in space.
She
And
was very upset that they called her the first woman.
Yes.
She says, I'm the first person.
That's right.
It doesn't matter if I'm male or female.
And I agree with her. You know, that we should stop all this color and
I think they should put a lot of women in space, actually.
Yeah. I won't even comment on that one. She says that aliens exist and may already be here on Earth, but we just cannot see them.
Hello.
She said that there must be other life out there.
Maybe you can see them.
Because they could exist on the billions of stars out there.
Good for
And
her.
she said that there's no two ways about it. Aliens exist. And she says, will they be like you and me, made up of carbon and nitrogen? Maybe not. It's
She knows.
possible they're here right now and we simply can't see them.
Well, we do see them.
Listen to this. Maybe she's been reading about you transparent people.
Maybe
She says,
she is.
maybe they're totally see-through. How about that one? So I thought that was pretty interesting. So anyway, apparently
Maybe they're the ones putting toothpaste on your private
maybe,
part.
and maybe that makes them disappear. But what's interesting is she's not returned to space since 1991, even though she has reapplied, but she was turned down with the European Space Agency in 92 and 98.
Well, why? Did they
Probably
turn her
because
down?
she told too many of their secrets. Now, this one I just think is hilarious for a variety of reasons, because they're always having, like this Greta Thunberg, this,
Oh, please.
16-year-old child from nowhere that
She's
just shows up. There's
Yeah.
always a child that's done this or done that. So
People
now
in
we
Sweden
have
are embarrassed about her, you know that.
NASA's Alien Hunting Telescope discovers an Earth-sized planet orbiting within a star's habitable zone just 100 light years away. I have two articles.
Only 100 light years.
I have two articles, and I'm not sure if it's the same high schooler person or not, because it doesn't say in both articles, at least that I had access to. But the planet is called TOI 700, is 100 light years away and 20% larger than the Earth, and it's the only one in the habitable zone, although it's one of 3 planets orbiting a star. And they say it's possible the world has a liquid water on the surface, but it's not confirmed. So they said that the scientists didn't see it, but a team of amateur astronomers, including a high school student,
Oh, I read about that.
identified the error and corrected it. So they're always saying, these kind of weird things. Then I found another article about a high school intern at NASA who found a new planet called TOI 1338b, which was found 1,300 light years away in the Pictors
Well, what does
constellation.
TOI mean?
I don't know. So there's 2 of them, and they both claim that it's a high school student. There's 2 different names. So I don't know if it's, like the same one or not. But the thing is, it's like, like Mark Zuckerberg founding Facebook, or Bill
he
Gates.
can't tie his shoelaces.
Bill Gates founding Microsoft. They pick
And you know that he
somebody.
was a dope nick.
They pick somebody, and then they put this thing on them, like Greta Thunberg, and then they.
She's brain dead.
But they are not your power people, and they're not the people with the brain. So I don't know why they do this stuff. And then my last story is about a man in California who is a night security guard, claims to have spotted a UFO after capturing footage of a strange green light slowly rising from a California
I
construction
saw that
site
video.
before pausing and shooting off into the dark.
Did you see it?
Yeah, I saw it.
What do you think?
That's why I'm reporting on it. Well, it could be. But the point is still, like we've been telling you, that there's more and more disclosure. So all the time, there's more and more alien type stories. So I think I brought my book. Here's the Blue Blood. You want true galactic history? Read Blue Blood, True Blood. This is fascinating. And it talks about clear people, transparent people, and all the things that they're now telling you on the news. It's here. And there's a lot of good information. If you don't have your Blue Blood book, you need this one for your true galactic history. I already told you about these 2, which the 3rd one is coming up. Plus,
When is it coming out?
I'm hoping maybe before the end of the month.
Ah.
So it'll be the 3rd one to this. Plus, it will be supported just like we have Heights of Health. Pull that one up, which is supporting alternative medical
But how the
apocrypha.
pictures match together.
Yes,
I love that.
I do too. So the new one, which is coming out, it will be called Heights of Spirituality, which will be supporting the 3 books.
I tell them the secret.
What?
Somewhere in that picture is Janet walking up a mountain pathway,
No, I'm not on
and
this
you can
picture.
find her.
No, I'm not on this
Yeah.
picture, but I did walk on this mountain. So anyway, it's these 2 books. I didn't tell you to put it down yet.
Oh, I'm sorry,
You're not
Megan.
obeying-
I'm sorry, Megan.
You're not
I'll
obeying
pick it up.
directions very well. So anyway, these books now we are shipping. So I still have some from the first printing, and we're getting low on them. So if you want your books, order right away, because I'm going to have to put in my order for the next
No.
printing very soon.
I'm getting high on them.
So, like I said, and then with the next ones will be the third book to this,
I put down that's very
Heights
heavy.
of Spirituality. Yes, over 1,000
I
pages.
have to take 6 weeks off from my duties
Over
now.
1,000 pages of health and healing work, and this is the time of year when people do it. And the thing is, people get started and they don't finish their healing work. This is work that will help you not only get started, but will give you work to do all through the year, so it becomes a habit and you actually can change your health versus just talk about doing it. So remember, my webinar series have started up again.
Yeah, I wrote it down.
Good for you. So they've started up again. The next session will be in February. We've already started January, but you can't sign up yet. But you can. It's based on this book. This is a fabulous book. Affirmations for Self-Change. If you don't have that in your personal library, you need that book. And then you're going to Earthquake Zone, Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
And,
and then Ecuador.
which will be Spanish and English. So we do have some English-speaking people going there.
I might even find some of those Middle Eastern terrorists in
I
there.
hope not.
Yeah. And then to Malta for a huge, huge event and investiture with much royalty from around the world.
Yeah, we don't have that on our website yet.
Well, I thought you did.
No.
Well, you should have.
I do not.
Well,
I need that information.
somebody's getting a bad review, next review.
It's going to be you because you haven't got me the information.
I did give you the information.
No.
Oh,
And
it's-
Portugal?
Portugal is private
Ah, well then
Yeah.
why do you have it on the list?
because that's where I'm going.
Well, I don't know.
So, and
It's
then
private, then why not?
Turkey.
That is on the website now.
Yes, and here's the thing, because by popular demand by the Turkish people, they have asked me to stay and do 2 tours instead of 1.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm probably going to do that.
All right, so if you do,
Since you told me that you don't want me to be here anymore, and that should stay away as long as possible.
so if you are, especially in Europe, it is a very easy flight to get to Turkey, and it's amazing. I love Turkey. I wish I could
Or you
go.
could just cross with the immigrants.
But I have to stay and take care of the puppies and the kitties. So,
Oh yeah, because then when I come back, guess who else is leaving and I have to take care of
then
them.
I'm going to be taking the Clear Health and Healing trip to Italy. And again, especially if you're in Europe, it is a very easy trip for you to do.
Especially if you're an immigrant and you can smuggle yourself in.
And if you're in North America or South America and you want to go, it's an amazing opportunity to go and walk the ways of the Waldensian people. And if you don't know about the Waldensian people, then you need to read True World History, Humanity's Saga, because it is a fascinating, fascinating story, and there's still Waldensian people up there, and we walk the ancient trails. And
It's on that cover.
Yes.
You're in there, you're on there.
well, on the mountains.
Try
we
to
just
find
showed you.
Janet on the cover.
And so, as I told you, especially if you are interested in ancient history and you're interested in opening up your genetics and you want to go where the tourists don't go, where we go, tourists don't go, trust me.
Yeah, they don't want to go where we are.
No.
Oh, this word loves
No,
it.
that's right. He's just using the excuse of the puppies and the kitties not to come back.
It's
so.
the truth.
Yeah,
I want to go.
but it's an amazing place and it's very
Especially you
reasonable.
can stay in my favorite hotel there and now I can't even go.
And eat your favorite food.
I know.
Yeah, I'll eat extra for you.
Anyway.
So that's what we have for you up through the middle of the year.
Yeah,
Right?
and I just want to say a very special happy birthday today to my cousin in Stockholm, Heido Jacobus Tumobra. Yes, she asked me to visit Stockholm.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I will.
Yeah, well, we've been there before.
Yeah, but I mean, maybe I'll just visit and stay and go to the immigrant,
And not take me. I had reindeer in Stockholm, and I love reindeer.
No, we had moose.
No, we had reindeer deer.
Then I had moose.
No, you did not. We had reindeer.
I think it was a moose.
No, it was reindeer steaks, and it was delicious.
I had big antlers on
No,
my
they
plate.
didn't. Not on the plate. So anyway, so we have lots of books coming up. If you're not a member of our website, you're missing out. You got discounts, you got our blogs, you have all our videos on there. So less than $1 a day, expansions.com. Get your membership like ASAP. People love it that join, and we have people from all over the world. And that's where you have access to us. That's where we have our Q&A blog, and that's where you can ask questions that are of interest to the general readership, not on Facebook. If you have personal questions, they require personal consultations or reports or scans. And we do not do phone or Skype anymore except for our Oversoul Mastermind group, so it's all written at
I
this
didn't
point.
want to do it for them anymore.
Yeah, but we're still obligated. So, with that said, I think we caught them up on all the latest
Well,
news.
we have to get ready for the class starting tomorrow evening.
That's right. So if you're not here in January, we still have other events that you can join us around the world. No excuses.
No,
Right.
too late anyway.
So until next time,
Bye for now.
bye.